Hello Strength Matters, welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays, an opportunity for us to talk about training principles and training concepts and share as much as we can with you to help you become the best versions of yourselves. I'm Phil McDougall.
And I'm Scott Olson. Thanks for joining us. In today's Whiteboard Wednesday, we're going to talk about the principle of strength here, the component of strength, which is on our mind in a lot of different ways. We'll just start with this basic concept of what it is. Is there a definition that defines strength?
Well, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's very broad. It says strength is the ability to be strong or something like that. But it depends whether you're thinking mental strength or physical strength. In terms of physical strength, strength is the ability to produce force.
So that can be moving an object in space. An object that has a certain weight, it takes a certain amount of force to be able to move the object. And even from a mental strength perspective, there's this concept of, are we strong enough to push through the obstacle, or are we not strong enough and we are overcome by the force being exerted upon us? Mm-hmm. So maybe one of the questions I have to start off with is, I think a lot of people have some quick assumptions of the strength group, mm-hmm. the strength camp.
Yeah.
So what's from a muscle building perspective, how would you define that?
Yeah, so the image, when you say strength, so I'm thinking, if I'm talking to my mum and say, Mum, you should do some strength training, images that go into her head are men with big muscles, or grunting and strongman competitions that I make her watch on Christmas Day. Uh-huh. No, strength is the ability to use your nervous system to innovate the muscle fibers within a muscle. And I often use this, the Bradley Cooper limitless analogy to sell strength to people. In Limitless, Bradley Cooper has the same sized brain as the rest of us, but he is able to use 100% of his brain cells and takes over the world. That's the same as somebody of the same size being so much stronger than somebody else, because they're able to use their nervous system to innovate a higher percentage of muscles within the same, let's just say use the bicep. So somebody who never trains, or somebody who goes to the gym and just gets the pump and does high rep with resistance bands or dumbbells or whatever, their nervous system doesn't know how to recruit many more than 10-30% of the muscle, whereas somebody that trains strength training and just goes in and does 1 to 3, maybe up to 5 reps max, really heavy work, their brain is really good at using every single one of the muscle fibers. It's only when the nervous system kind of reach its capacity that's when the brain's like, okay, now we'll start growing muscle. So that's kind of, so strength is not really to do with muscle, it's to do with how you use your nervous system, technique.
It's a skill that can be built in so many different ways, and my quick visual is someone picking up a wheelbarrow, lifting those two handles. I've been on a lot of job sites, landscaping, trail building stone walls, and there are the big, strong-looking guys who have trouble lifting that wheelbarrow fold with rocks. And some of the scrawny people who just have developed that skill and that conditioning lift it like that. So there's a lot of different ways to find strength in the world. But the next question we have on the board here is, why do we need it? And this question, I think, is worth breaking down into different age groups. So the concept of a 20-year-old, male or female, what is strong enough? What are some basic levels of strength that would just make them go through their day better, have more happiness, be more engaged? Mm-hmm. And so just thinking of a 20-year-old, I can say for a healthy adult male, he should be able to hang on a bar or hang from a tree limb for maybe a minute.
At least, yeah. At least. I'm just talking about like how we developed into these beings that we are now, where we didn't just have to sit down all day. We would actually have to hang from things to save our life and climb up trees. And 20-year-olds should be, base level. We could have this conversation for an hour,
right.
But minute and a half, say.
Okay.
Well, that's just a dead hang. We put a pull-up challenge into the Strength Matters level 2, which is not a dead hang, it's an active hang with an eccentric rep. But anyway, that's another story. So in all of the standards that we've come up with in the Strength Matters, is the standards don't change until you reach 50, because we think that.
Nice.
So I'm almost in my 40s, and I can do more now than I ever could in my 20s. So I think anybody with smart training principles, who take care of the 7 human movements and the 10 components, you can pretty much keep up with anybody in their teens, 20s. Recovery might be slower, but anyway. So so going back to, went off on a tangent then. So why do we need it? I think 20s and 40s can all be in the same group. 60s a little bit less, 80s a little bit less. So these two questions kind of tie into each other. How much strength do you need, and what is base level strength? So should we maybe look at the other end, the 80-year-olds, thinking, well, my nan's in her early 90s, but certainly every 80-year-old that is still able-bodied, every 90-year-old, it'd be nice if they're strong enough to get up from the floor, right? It'd be good if they were resilient enough to fall down to the floor without breaking anything. It'd be good to be able to have enough strength to walk to the shop and carry home some basic groceries.
Mm-hmm. To be able to climb a flight of stairs without assistance. My grandma's nearing 100, and she still takes time every day to go outside, if the weather's good, to pick up sticks around her yard.
Amazing.
She's no longer breaking the big sticks, but this is her minimum level of engagement.
Amazing. I'm just being able to lift up basic things around the kitchen just to be able to feed. So just moving down to the kind of 60s, instantly I'm thinking my parents, aunties, uncles, I think they should be strong enough to be able to move furniture if they, without breaking anything and slipping a disc. They should be able to do gardening, wheelbarrowing. They should, I think in terms of performance-wise with, let's say, a deadlift, I think, again, this is something that is questionable and arguable both ways, but I think just to be able to lift up your own body weight in a deadlift pattern, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for, certainly men in their 60s. Maybe.
Even in their 60s. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and here's this interesting piece, what is strength? Strength is the ability to accomplish a specific force production. So maybe it's lifting a weight, maybe it's doing that deadlift. But strength is also the capability of achieving that task.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is strong enough to lift their body weight or even twice their body weight, but dysfunctional because of pain, that they can't play a nine round course of golf, or they can't go on a mile walk with their kids, then we start to question, are they really strong enough? So from a base level perspective, we talked about 20-year-old, 40-year-old, 80-year-old. The reality is we need to be strong enough to be able to survive when there is risk. Whether we've fallen, something's happened, we have to get out of the way, maybe we have to assist other people. We also need to be strong enough to actually have some enjoyment and happiness in our lives so that we can play with our kids, so that we can go and have some athletic activity or a hobby that gives us meaning and joy. And we also need this next level concept of what's strong enough when we look at these concepts of the hinge and locomotion. the movement patterns that we defined in the last episode, we can start to narrow in on what is truly a baseline. What are some expectations that a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, an 80-year-old can have? We can spend all day talking about this stuff, but at the end of the day, one of the things Strength Matters represents is understanding that when we define it, when we set goals for people and we take them to that next step, everything in their lives gets easier.
Yeah.
Not just capability, but even just satisfaction of being able to participate more and get back into that adventurous phase of what we're capable of doing if we're strong enough.
Yeah.
So brilliant. Thanks again for joining us for Whiteboard Wednesday. And in the next episode, we're going to keep going on with the 10 components of athleticism and bring you more.
How does strength fit into the 10 components? Thinking of different people of different ages, you've got, if you just run and do nothing else, how much are you able to pick up off the ground? How much can you press up over your head? All these things are going to be relevant a lot further down the line, 10, 20 years. If you don't do it now, then you'll absolutely lose that ability. When I left the Marines, I was not strong in the slightest. I could run a ton, but strength training only really came a part of my life about 6 years ago. And when people always say, what's the thing with strength training? Strength training, imagine if everything in the world around you feels lighter. So if you ever struggle with any task, like opening the huge door to the shopping centre, the Westfield shopping centre that's about 30 feet high, imagine if it's all really light. Everything you touch in the world around you feels lighter. That's strength, and that's why it's important. Okay, brilliant.
Well, I'll add one thing on the concept of the opposite of strength is when we're disconnected and unstable. So I grew up actually hypermobile, and it prevented me from participating in a lot of sports. And it wasn't until later in my life that I really started pursuing strength, low reps, high load activities, and so many things in my body actually got better. Pain lessened, I was more connected, I stopped having this excessive play in my movement patterns because through pursuing strength, I actually found a much greater connection in my body.